Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unpack fascinating sources to bring you the most valuable insights. Today we're taking a deep dive into a true classic, The Millionaire Next Door, The Surprising Secrets of America's Wealthy.
Yeah, this isn't your typical, get-rich-quick book. This book pretty much flips upside down our conventional wisdom about what it means to be wealthy. It's all based on extensive, really rigorous research with actual self-made millionaires. It's way less about the flashy cars and, private jets.
Right.
And much more about quiet discipline and, well, some pretty surprising everyday habits.
So our mission for you today is to uncover the truly surprising truths about how real wealth is actually built. Want to shatter some of those, deeply ingrained stereotypes you might have and distill the essential habits, the mindsets that truly lead to financial independence.
Yeah.
And all of this is meticulously backed by the comprehensive research in these pages. All right, let's explore this. Okay, so for years, right, we've had this glossy image of wealth kind of spoon-fed to us. The mansions, the luxury cars, designer clothes. We assume the person in the biggest house, well, they must be the richest.
Right, that's the assumption.
But the authors of The Millionaire Next Door, they went on this journey that completely shattered that illusion. They actually went out looking for those flashy millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
And what they found was, well, frankly, pretty odd. A lot of people who looked wealthy, living large, actually had very little net worth. While the truly wealthy individuals often lived incredibly understated lives.
And this is such a crucial distinction. Honestly, it's a game changer. Wealth is not the same as income.
Okay.
You could earn millions a year, but if you spend it all, you're not getting wealthier. You're just, living a high consumption lifestyle.
Just spending high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wealth is what you accumulate, what you keep, not what you spend. The book has a great term for those folks who look rich but aren't. Big hat, no cattle.
Huh, I like that. Big hat, no cattle, all show.
Pretty much. All show, no substance.
So if that's not the typical millionaire, then who is? Who is the prototypical American millionaire based on their research? Because, when I first heard their profile, it really flipped my own ideas upside down. What were some of the key demographic surprises they found?
Well, for starters, you might picture, Wall Street titans, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But the data showed something else entirely. Typically, they're around 57 years old, often married, maybe 3 kids. About 70% earn, the lion's share of their household income. And here's a really big one. Roughly 2/3 of working millionaires are self-employed.
2/3.
Wow, think about that. Self-employed people are, less than 20% of the workforce?
Right.
Yet they make up 2/3 of these millionaires. It's huge.
I have a massive divergence from what most people probably imagine. But let's dig into the numbers a bit more, because this is where it gets really fascinating. What do their finances actually look like? Income versus, total wealth.
Okay, so here's the first kind of jaw-dropping insight. These aren't necessarily super high-income earners who just happen to be rich. Not always. We're talking about people whose median annual taxable income is often, pretty modest, around $131,000.
$131K median.
Okay, yeah. And the average is maybe $247,000. But their average household net worth,
That's the key number.
that's the key. It's a staggering $3.7 million on average, with a median of $1.6 million.
Wow. So a huge gap between annual income and accumulated wealth.
Exactly. The takeaway is their wealth isn't primarily about the cash flow they earn each year.
Right.
It's about what they've accumulated over time. In fact, typically their total annual realized income, it's less than 7% of their total wealth.
Less than 7%.
Mm-hmm. And overwhelmingly, 97% of them, they're homeowners. But living in homes valued at a surprisingly modest average, maybe around $320,000.
The 320K average home value. Definitely not the big mansions we picture.
Not at all.
But wait, what about inherited wealth? I mean, isn't that the common wisdom that
Yeah.
most rich people just got it from their families?
Yeah, that's the belief.
How strongly does this research push back on that?
Oh, it strongly debunks that myth. It's really clear. Inherited wealth plays a tiny, almost negligible role for the vast majority of these millionaires. Get this. Roughly 80% are first-generation affluent. They built it themselves.
80%.
Yeah. Less than 20% got any income or wealth from a trust fund or estate. And more than half, never received even a single dollar in inheritance.
Okay, so that really emphasizes the self-made aspect.
Absolutely. It's about self-reliance, not some lucky family break. They also, touch on ethnic origin. They noted higher concentrations among folks with Russian, Scottish, and Hungarian roots compared to English. Interesting side note.
Interesting. So, okay, we're painting a picture here.
Yeah.
Self-made, often self-employed, average homes, not necessarily huge salaries. What about their, like, daily habits? What reflects this accumulation mindset?
Well, a key characteristic they found is just living well below their means.
Frugality.
Extreme frugality, yeah. We're talking about people who drive American-made cars, often older models.
Not the latest BMWs.
Definitely not. Only a minority drive current year vehicles.
Yeah.
And forget designer labels. Half of these millionaires never spent more than like $400 for a suit.
They've heard, okay.
Never more than maybe $140 for shoes or $235 for a watch.
So practical.
Very practical. And often their spouses are just as meticulous. They're like the family's chief financial planner, the budgeter.
A team effort.
Definitely. They also typically have what the authors call a go-to-hell fund.
Oh, boy.
A go-to-hell fund. Basically, enough wealth socked away so they could live comfortably for 10 years or more without working gives them independence.
Ah, okay. Financial freedom buffer.
Exactly. And these people are also incredibly fastidious investors. They put nearly 20% of their annual cash income straight into investments every year.
20%. That's serious discipline.
It really is.
Okay, so we've busted some myths about who millionaires are. But what about what they do? The authors really drill down on one core habit underpinning everything: living incredibly frugally. You said it wasn't just a suggestion. It's like a non-negotiable cornerstone, right?
Absolutely. Cornerstone is the perfect word. The research found millionaires are just far more likely to budget, track expenses, plan investments than non-millionaires. And what's fascinating is how consistent it is. The affluent folks in their study, they tended to answer a strong yes to 3 specific questions.
Okay, what were they?
Were your parents very frugal? Are you frugal? And is your spouse more frugal than you are?
Interesting. So it's almost like a family trait, or at least a shared value system.
It seems that way. It gets passed down or chosen in a partner.
And that's not just broad strokes, is it? Their discipline goes into really detailed financial planning, too. What were some of the practical habits that really stood out there?
It's not glamorous stuff, but it works. A significant number, 55%, operate on a formal annual budget.
Over half. They actually budget.
Yes. They know exactly where their money's going. And nearly 2/3, 62.4%, know precisely how much their family spends each year on the basics. Food, clothing, shelter.
They track everything.
Pretty much. And it goes even deeper. 65% have clearly defined goals: daily, weekly, monthly, annual, lifetime financial goals.
Wow, that's planning.
This isn't accidental wealth. It's meticulously planned. 66% spend significant time actually planning their financial futures. And remember, the credit cards, they weren't flashing like Neiman Marcus or Brooks Brothers cards.
That's the status card. Yeah.
The vast majority use practical cards: Visa, MasterCard, even Sears was high on the list.
Sears, okay.
It's a clear sign, right? They valued utility over showing off status. Financial independence first.
So it's not just about saving pennies. It's a complete lifestyle and a deep, deep commitment to planning. What do you think really drives this extreme level of discipline?
I think fundamentally it boils down to prioritizing independence over immediate gratification.
Long-term thinking.
Exactly. They understand that every dollar saved and invested today is a step closer to true financial freedom tomorrow. They see money as a tool, a tool for security and growth, not primarily just for consumption.
That makes perfect sense. And the research really hammers this home by identifying this stark contrast between two types of people. They call them prodigious accumulators of wealth, or PAWs.
Pause.
And underaccumulators of wealth, UAWs. And PAWs, the true wealth builders, they accumulate like 4 times the wealth of UAWs. So what defines a UAW? What are they doing differently?
Well, UAWs, they're almost the mirror image, really. They often equate high income with high spending. It's like earn more, spend more.
Keeping up to the Joneses, maybe.
Totally. They use debt to sustain lifestyles they can't quite afford. They prioritize visible status symbols, the luxury cars, designer clothes, and typically they neglect investing in long-term planning. It's just not on their radar. If you connect it to the bigger picture, it's just a fundamental difference in how they view and manage money. For UAWs, money is basically for immediate consumption. For PAWs, it's for accumulation.
And the book even gives you a simple formula, right, to sort of gauge how wealthy you should be. based on your income and age. Can you walk us through that?
Absolutely. It's a quick check. Here's how the book suggests you calculate your expected net worth. You take your age, multiply it by your annual earned income, that's key, what you actually bring in before taxes, not inherited stuff,
Okay, age times earned income.
and then divide that number by 10. This result, minus any inherited wealth you might have, that's what your net worth should ideally be, according to their model.
Okay.
And for UAWs, their actual net worth is shockingly less than half of this expected wealth.
Less than half. Ouch. That's a quick, maybe sobering reality check for a lot of people.
It can be, yeah.
So that raises a really important question. Can UAWs change? Can they shift their habits and become pause? Is there a path from underaccumulation to, well, prodigious accumulation?
The authors say, yes, absolutely. It's not set in stone, but it starts with acknowledging their financial situation, really facing it.
Honesty.
Yeah, brutal honesty. Then it's about getting help, maybe working with a financial planner, implementing strict budgeting. They even suggest maybe cold turkey cutbacks on discretionary spending for a while.
Like a reset.
Exactly, a reset. And most crucially, fundamentally shifting their focus, moving away from consumption towards accumulation. It's a total mindset shift.
And that ultimate realization for these millionaires, a core understanding, you mentioned it earlier. Their typical annual cash income is less than 7% of their total wealth.
Right. That insight is key.
It highlights that minimizing your taxable income, legally of course, and maximizing unrealized appreciation, basically letting your investments grow without constantly cashing them out to spend.
Letting it compound.
That's really key to building lasting wealth. So, okay, bringing it all together, what does this all mean for you, our listener?
Well, what we've learned today from the Millionaire Next Door is pretty clear. Building wealth. It isn't about grand gestures or lucky breaks or even super high-octane jobs.
Well,
It's about a consistent, disciplined lifestyle. Hard work, perseverance, diligent planning, and maybe above all, self-discipline. It's really about living well below your means, prioritizing financial independence over trying to display high social status.
yeah, that status trap.
And just relentlessly investing for the long haul.
Absolutely. These insights powerfully underscore that true wealth is accumulated, not spent. It's built quietly. The millionaire next door is often, the person you'd least suspect. That quiet, unassuming individual just quietly building their fortune through smart habits and an unwavering focus on long-term growth. So if true wealth really is about accumulation through self-discipline and, strategic choices, not about the outward show of riches, here's something to think about. What single habit or maybe perception in your own life could you reconsider this week to align maybe just a little bit more closely with the practices of these prodigious accumulators of wealth?